All right, welcome out to the Gridiron 64 podcast. This is episode number 61. This is the recap. TJ and Tony Riddell will do the preview for week 6. I was tasked with recapping week 5, right? So it's episode 61, but it's recap week 5, and Tony and TJ will do part 1 of episode 61, but they will do the preview for week 6. I believe that's correct. I got a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, thank you. And so we want to do the recap, right? Because we do the preview. So we definitely want to end it with the recap and let you guys know. I'm sure you guys already know who won and lost, but we still like to have our input in it. So, but before I get started, I do want to tell you guys that we are making some significant changes to the Gridiron 64 in terms of we are going to be doing a lot of different things. As far as the teams and stuff, I think all that's going to stay the same. But we do want to go live. We don't want to pre-record anymore. So we've got to figure out. Schedules are kind of hard when you go live because you want to be consistent. You want to do it the same day, and that's a little difficult sometimes with people working. You can't get everybody together consistently because schedules changes. People work late, so we're definitely going to go live at some point. We're just trying to figure out how it's going to work for everybody that's involved in the Gridiron 64. And then we're looking at other ways to improve. What other things that we want to do as far as interviewing coaches and players, how that's going to work. If we can go down to their practices, maybe meet with them there, or bring them on to Zoom. Something that works for the schools, the coaches, the players. Something that works for the Gridiron 64. So just a lot of changes you're going to see coming in the rest of this football season. And then, of course, we'll continue to work and improve it for next year. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But we're going to continue to come on every week and talk of football. We've got 47 teams, so we try to cover as many of those 47 teams as we can. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with the recap of week 5. And the first game that we had on the schedule was our game of the week, and that was the Cuero Gobblers, and they were taking on the Beeville Trojans. These were two really, really good teams. I think I came out and said Cuero was looking really tough. They had that game against the Calhoun Wildcats, and everybody kind of, okay, let's see, smaller school versus bigger school. Could Cuero win that game? They were ahead, but that was the week that we had some really bad weather, rain, and a couple of games around the area got canceled. So they didn't finish the game. Cuero was winning, but the game wasn't over yet. So outside of that, Cuero's still looking really, really tough. The Beaver Trojans, I think, came a little bit more surprised. They were undefeated. They beat some good teams. So this is a team that you have to really take notice of this year. I think they're going to do something special. Coach Sosa has got those guys. They're really playing good. He's been out in Beeville now for quite some time, couple of years, and every year, Beeville, you're seeing they're getting better, right? And they're a run team. And so I wanted to see how Beeville was going to take on a really good Cuero team, how their defense was going to play against a really good offense, and could that offense actually score and be and keep up with Cuero? Because I thought Cuero was going to win this game, but I wanted to see Beeville compete, and of course Cuero does take the win, 49-21. So if you look at some of the stats here, Beeville as a team had 31 carries for 83 yards. And so a team that runs a lot, it really could do much against that Cuero defense. Aderondo for Beeville had 6 carries, 56 yards. So they run multiple guys, right? They've got a lot of guys, but they run multiple guys to carry the ball. It's not just one guy. But on the pass, if I have this correctly, as a team, 16 receptions, 191 yards, if that's correct. So that was kind of surprising. The pass, I don't know. Excuse me, Beeville is a run team, but you saw if this stat is correct, 16 receptions, 191 yards. So they were effective with the pass. And I think Beeville, we're gonna see Beeville, and I say we because I'm from Rockport, right there in our district, and I think they're gonna. And I've said this early on after they beat Sinton in week 1 that this was a team that has a good chance to win the district, along with Port Lavaca, who I think is going to be a tough team too, and La Vernia. who's going to be tough. So I think it matches up with those three teams when they play. It's definitely must see football because I think one of those three teams are going to win the district. But I think Beeville is just as good, if not better, than the other two teams. So it's going to be a battle. I just think they're playing really good, and one of those three teams I would say is going to win the district. But they're going to be good games when those three teams meet up. So it's gonna be much see football. And so, but again, Cuero takes the win of 49 to 21. Cuero is rolling. The next game we had on our schedule, you had the Orange Grove Bulldogs. They were taking on the San Diego Vaqueros. This was going to be a good one. We talked about it on the podcast. I felt like, San Diego coming in tough. They've been tough every year. It's a tough team that plays really good every year, competing for a district title. But I watched Orange Grove play just about maybe a week or two before this game took place, and I thought that Orange Grove, what I saw was multiple guys that can catch the ball. The quarterback just kind of spreads it out to four guys, and each one of them gets involved. So you don't have one guy that gets 200 yards or so, right? But they just spread it around, and it's a very tough team to defend, really, offensively, because they can move the ball up and down the field. I don't think they have a problem scoring. You might be able to hold them if you get them inside of the 10-yard line, but they can just distribute that ball, and they've got some speed, but they've got 4 to 5 guys that really good hands that can catch the ball. And I just think it makes it really, really difficult for defense. So I just thought that San Diego was going to have a hard time. The defense for San Diego, I thought was going to have a hard time stopping Orange Grove. And so I gave the edge, I believe, to Orange Grove. But I thought it was going to be a good game because I thought San Diego's offense could also score on Orange Grove's defense. So Orange Grove does get the win. It was a close one, but they do get the win 29-25. I thought it would be close, and it was. Orange Grove scored 15 points in the fourth quarter, and that's kind of what got them the win. San Diego as a team had, I believe, 68 total plays, 18 first downs, but they did have 6 penalties for 70 yards, and I think that's what really hurt them. Obviously, that played big. Number 5, Jaden Lozano, he's a junior, 18 of 32 for 259 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Rushing as a team, they had 36 carries for 167 yards. Receiving as a team, 18 receptions for 259 yards. So again, number 21 Gutierrez, a freshman, 4 receptions for 87 yards. So again, I thought a really good game. I thought it was going to be close, but if you look at the one thing, I think also the penalties for San Diego, 6 penalties, 70 yards. Man, penalties hurt you. They just do. They hurt you when you're sustaining drives. That's a drive killer, right? Like that's a drive killer. Like if you are running the ball, you get a holding 10 yards back, you get a chop block 15 yards back. That now all of a sudden changes your play calling from possibly a second and 5 to now a second and long. It just changes the play call, and if you don't get the next play right, then you're looking at 3rd and long. So penalties, such a big factor in the game, and I think those 70 yards for San Diego was part of what doomed them in a loss 29 to 25. But a good game by both of them. I think both of them will be in the playoffs. I think Orange Grove in their district will be in the bottom half of the playoffs. Now you never know, but with Ingleside and Sinton rolling and playing good, I think Orange Grove will be 3 or 4 in their district getting into the playoffs, and I think San Diego definitely be in the playoffs. So we're gonna see. We're gonna talk more about these guys, I think, because both of those teams I think will be in the playoffs. Now we go to the third game, and you had the Odem Owls taking on the Taft Greyhounds. I said before the season started, I said, but watch out for Odem. I just felt like Odem, they got a winning tradition over there. And I thought last year, uh, not winning district, they were going to come back hungry. Now, how talented were they going to be? Excuse me, I really didn't know, but I knew they were going to play hard. I thought that Taft would win the district with bringing back their quarterback. Obviously, I knew he lost some of his weapons, but I still thought Taft was the best team in that district. But they really struggled ever since that Skidmore game. Mathis really took a lot out of them. They really went in and beat them, and they haven't really recovered from that. So I felt like Odem had a really good chance to win this game. So I picked Odem, and it was hard for me because I like the Taft Greyhounds, but I just felt the way Taft had played the last couple of weeks going into District 1. I thought Odem was going to come in and play one of their best games, and they do get the win over Taft. It's a big win, 34-16. So I got to say, I'm really concerned about Taft. I mean, I still think they'll make the playoffs in that district, but they're definitely struggling offensively. They're not scoring a lot of points, 16 points for an offense last year that was red hot. Defense can't really hold anybody. They gave up 34 points to a pretty good, not great, but good Odem team. So I'm really concerned about the Taft Greyhounds, but I do have some stats here for Odem. As a team, 47 total plays, 12 first downs, 3 penalties for 25 yards, but they rushed 34 times for 303 yards. Aiden Lozano, the senior, 18 carries for 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Trey Connally, senior, 1 reception, 80 yards. Taft as a team had 46 total plays, 8 first downs, but they had, again, 11 penalties for 87 yards. And you just heard me kind of talk about those penalties, and that's a killer for Taft. 11 penalties for 87 yards. JJ Acosta, 11 of 25 for 39 yards. He had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. They 16 carries for 77 yards. Let's see, receiving 2 for 90 yards. Rodriguez, 2 receptions for 90 yards. So again, you know, if you, just expectations were so high for Taft Greyhounds, and maybe they're not the team that they were last year. I hadn't really caught one full game. I've seen some highlights here and there because I'm going through so many games on Friday while we're also streaming games. But maybe, they're not as good as possibly we thought. We kind of look at the quarterback and we say, man, we know he's good. I mean, we know he can play. You can put him on any team and he's going to do his thing. But you got to have weapons. They did lose coaches. He lost some of his weapons. Just not sure if that Taft team is as good as they were last year with the amount of kids that they lost, right? So we'll just have to see. Still early in the district, but Taft definitely struggling now with 1 loss. They'll have to kind of win out the rest of the games. And then we'll see, how Odem plays. There's still Hebbronville in there. George West is still in that district. So still a lot of football left. We'll see where the chips fall. But taking that loss 34-16, where I sit here, what I saw and what I expected out of the Greyhounds, I think it's going to be a struggle. They got to try to figure it out. But the defense, to me, is kind of the biggest issue because of the amount of points that they're giving up, right? So we'll see what happens, but I still think that the Taft Greyhounds are going to be in the playoffs. Now we'll go to the next game. That's game number 4. You have the Alice Coyotes taking on the La Feria Lions. I had the Alice Coyotes. I'm big on Coach Castellano out there. And I've said this before and I stick to it. I think Alice is going to continue to get better every year. I mean, I think that they always got talent out there. They always got kids that come out, play football, good football team. Now I think they really got some good coaching out there. So I think this year, and then you see next year and the year, I think Alice is going to continually to get better and compete for district titles. And, we'll see next year if you have Alice and Calhoun in the same district, right? Because there'll be a change in realignment after this football season. But this year, I still think they got an opportunity. I still think they got an opportunity to win district. Listen, you got Toloso Midway in there. You can't take them lightly because TM is coming on. We've talked on our podcast about the defense. I think they got a really good defense. The offense is getting better. Now you got Alice out there and Cal Allen, who's still Cal Allen, right? But they're not that dominant Cal Allen team, I think, from the past. I mean, I think if you come in and you play a great game, they're beatable. And last year's game against Cal Allen, I mean, it came down to the wire. It was a heck of a game. So I think Alice is sitting really pretty with the coaching moves that they've made and the assistant coaches that Castellano has brought in to help him build this program up. So they were taking on La Feria. I had Alice winning this game, and they did defeat La Feria convincingly 41-6. When you look at Alice, the stats that I had, Alice scored 27 points in the second quarter. And that's what gave them the advantage. And La Feria never recovered from that. Didn't have any more stats outside of that. But again, like I said, I think when you look at Alice, I think every week they're going to get better, and that's a good, I think, district with Toloso Midway, because the rest of the teams are from the Valley, right? But with Toloso Midway, now you're becoming an elite team, a better team, right, than they had been before. Not a team that you can say, oh well, we're just going to go out and play team. You got to be careful with them now because they're pretty strong out there. They're good defensively. They can score some points. If you don't come in with your A game, it's a team you now got to pay attention to because if not, you could lose to them, right? So you got TM now. You've got Alice, who I think is going to continue to get better. And then you got the dominant Calhoun Wildcats. So anything can happen here on the Gridiron 64. We keep an eye on it and see what happens. I still think Calhoun is the favorite to win the district, but you never know. Now we're going to go on to game number 5 of the recap here in week 5, and you had the Gregory Portland Wildcats taking on the Calhoun Sandcrabs. I got to tell you, this one was good. I didn't know which way to go. Looking at Gregory Portland and that win over Cal Allen, I talked to a lot of people, and they look, if we beat Cal Allen, we're going to be good, right? A lot of people measure their season on whether they beat Cal Allen or not. Well, they did this year, and the defense is really good, and everybody was riding high. And then they got that loss, I think it was to Vernia. It took a bad loss, right? And then I thought to myself, well, that did look. When the dust settles, you look at it and say, okay, is Gregory Portland is Gregory Portland still a good team? Yes, they are. You don't like to take a beating like that, a loss like that, but sometimes it happens. You have a bad game, right? I don't know if there was any injuries or who played or who didn't play, but when the dust settled, I said, is Gregory Portland still a good team? And the answer was yes. Heck yeah, they are. They're still good. And I felt like they were going to come back and they were going to come hungry, ready to play. Now, Calhoun is a tough team. And I thought, boy, this could go down to the wire. I took Gregory Portland simply because I think not so much that they're the better team over Calhoun, because I thought they were both pretty much evenly matched. I liked Gregory Portland's defense, but they got go beat down. They gave up a lot of points in the prior game, but I thought they were going to come out more focused. And I said, man, they're gonna come out. They're gonna want that win. They're gonna play a lot tougher. You're gonna see a different Gregory Portland team, and they do get the win, a close one over the Sandcrabs, 21, excuse me, to 14. And Calhoun, as a team, had 47 carries, 177 yards. They're the run team, right? So 47 carries, 177 yards. Derek Salinas, the junior, had 11 carries for 68 yards. Gregory Portland as a team, Reed Dooms, GP, 12 of 25 for 118 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Rushing 36 carries, 223 yards for the Wildcats, receiving 12 receptions for 118 yards. So, again, GP, a very well-balanced team. Good quarterback, right? You saw some of the stats here. I thought it was going to be a good game. Both of these teams obviously will be in the playoffs in their divisions. I talked about Port Lavaca. I think they're going to be competing for a district title with Beeville and Vernia. Those 3 teams, when they play, it's going to be really, really good. But then on GP on the other side, I think definitely they're going to make the playoffs, but they got an opportunity also to win their district. It always comes down to the last game of the season where they'll play Flower Bluff. And that's also must-watch football when you have GP and Flower Bluff. So both of these teams, I think, will be in the playoffs, barring anything, happening from these teams. They should be in the playoffs. But I think both Calhoun and GP are not only going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be contending for a district title. So a lot of football left to play, and we'll see where the chips fall. The next game, number 6 on the GI64 schedule, you had the Victoria East Titans taking on the CC Carroll Tigers. Now, excuse me, Carroll was one of those teams that you just didn't know how they were going to fare, right? They almost beat Vets last year, which was really surprising to a lot of people. So coming in, I think they're the best team in Corpus Christi, right? Out of all the Corpus schools, the big schools, 5A schools. Well, obviously you got Vets and Miller, but Carroll's coming up. And the one thing I said about Carroll was in order for them to make the playoffs, which I think that's their goal, right? Their goal is to make the playoffs this year. That's they came close last year, didn't make it. And I don't think that they can beat Vets, and I don't think they can beat Miller this year. So for if they beat the other teams, considering they beat King, Ray, and Moody, right? They've got to beat both or one of the Victoria schools to make the playoffs, right? And so they were taking on the Victoria East Titans. The Victoria's a really good football team, the Titans, and so they didn't get the win. Actually, they got beat convincingly here as the Victoria East Titans defeated the Tigers 43-7. So where does that leave Carroll? I don't know. I mean, if you're Carroll and you lose, you're like, okay, this one loss. Let's just regroup, right? Because you're gonna play Moody, Ray. So Ray, I think you got to be kind of careful, Ray. But you got Moody, Ray, King. You got to win those games, and this is if you're the Carroll Tigers. Right? You got to win those games, and then you're gonna have a showdown at some point with Victoria West, right? So you beat the other three teams, right? And then you focus on beating Victoria West. Let's see where the chips fall when you play Miller and Vets. Like I said, Carroll played Vets strong last year, only lost by a touchdown. So it's not, in the books that they're going to lose to both of those games. But just considering they might lose to Vets and Miller, you have to beat Victoria West and you have to beat the other Corpus schools. And so if that happens, I think that's realistically the goal that I think Carroll wants to do right now. Their goal is we got to get in the playoffs, get in the postseason, get that round one under your belt, whether you win or lose, and then you build that from next year. But I think they've got to get into the play. I think that's the next step for the Carroll Tigers to get in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Let's see if I have any stats for Carroll, I do not. Let's see. Victoria East Tigers versus Carroll Tigers. Okay, so Victoria East has a team 28 carries for 244 yards. So they definitely ran the ball at will. And Prater, the senior, had 18 carries for 128 yards. That's for Victoria East. The stats. 11 receptions for 180 yards. So when you look at Victoria East as a team, 28 carries, 244 yards, 11 receptions, 180 yards. So they were able, and that's why the score was as big as it was, the lead was because they were able to move the ball on the ground effectively over that Carroll defense, and they were also able to pass the ball. So they're able to do both of those things. And when you can do that effectively and have those stats that you have, you're probably going to win the ball game. And that was the actual final score, 43-7. So we'll see where Carroll ends up and how they regroup this upcoming week. Now you had the game 7, you had the Kerrville Antlers taking on the Liberty Hill Panthers. Boy, this was going to be a good one. These are two teams not from the Coastal Bend area, but Liberty Hill is a team now that is part of the Gridiron 64 family, right? So in terms of us covering them, right, they're part of a 47 team. So, could Liberty Hill defeat Kerrville Tivy? Well, that didn't happen. Kerrville got the win over the Panthers, 34-20. A close game. I thought it would be close, but Kerrville gets the win. Now the stats for Kerrville in that game versus Liberty Hill. We'll go with Liberty Hill's stats. As a team, Liberty Hill, 55 carries for 387 yards. So I'll say that again. We have the stats for Liberty Hill. Liberty Hill as a team, and Liberty Hill is a team that lost. But Liberty Hill as a team, 55 carries in this game for 387 yards. Noah Long, the senior, 21 carries for 153 yards, 1 touchdown. Ben Carter, the other senior for Liberty Hill, 19 carries for 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. But then you look at Kerrville Tivy, or Kerrville Antlers as a team. They had 18 carries for 141 yards. Julian Roberts, 9 carries for 133 yards, 3 touchdowns. They're receiving 24 receptions for 240 yards. So there you go. Both of them had stats, but you would think that Liberty Hill, right, with that kind of run, that they would control the clock over 300 yards, 55 carries. You would think that that's a recipe when you look at that stat. You say, man, they're going to win, right? Let's look at their stats, and then the time management, right? Because Liberty Hill, the offense that they run, right, it's time. It just kind of you control the clock. But that didn't happen. And part of the reason is as the season first started, and I started seeing Liberty Hill, I said on the podcast, on this podcast, I said, man, I'm concerned about their defense. The offense is never going to be a concern for Liberty Hill because we know what they do. Everybody that's ever played Liberty Hill, it's no secret of what they're going to do, but they do it well. They're probably the best slot T team in the state of Texas, honestly. I've seen them close up in past years, and it is just hard. They wear you down. I mean, you can start off strong with them. They just wear you down. They wear that defense down, and they just pound and pound and pound, and they become stronger as the game goes, right? But the defense gave up a lot of points, and they still gave up a lot of points in this game, and they just couldn't score enough. So I'm still real concerned about Liberty Hill, a team that usually goes deep in the playoffs. The offense obviously looks like it's still there, but the defense is the question. It's where the question marks are. So we'll see what happens as the season goes. But if they don't fix that defense, I don't know. Maybe they might get in the playoffs, obviously, but how far will they go in the playoffs? It's still to be determined. But Kerrville Tybee, another strong team, also, and they're able to get the one touchdown win, 34-28. Now we'll go to the next game. This is the Carthage Bulldogs taking on Bullard. Could Bullard take on Carthage? Not a chance. Carthage gets that win 45-14. I don't have any stats on them. I don't think I found any stats on Carthage, but do we really need stats on Carthage? Everybody knows what this team is all about. With Carthage, every football season, that comes on, it's about another state title for Carthage. That's what it's just like kind of referral in our area, right? District titles are good, and a playoff run is good. But when Carthage in the season starts, they're always eyeing a state title. And I think if you don't win a state title, I mean, it's still a successful season for the amount of wins and stuff you got. But I think over in Carthage, it wasn't a successful season. And I don't know, maybe I'm jumping the gun on that, but the thing I'm trying to say about Carthage is that it's championship every year. That's what they feel. They always got a team every year. They feel like they always got a good opportunity to win a state title. So we'll see what happens this year, but they get the big win over Bullard 45-14. Now game 9 on the GI 64, you had the Sinton Pirates taking on the Vernia Bears, and this is another good one. Let's talk about Vernia for a second. Vernia is in that district where I said it'll be between Vernia, Port Lavaca, and Beeville, and that's going to be a must-see football, right? But I think they'll try to get back-to-back district titles. They were the district champions last year in that district, in that division, excuse me, in that district, and they'll try to get a back-to-back district title. It's going to be a little tough, I think, for Vernia this year because they do got a really good Calhoun team in their district, who I think is a lot better this year than they were last year. And Beeville's playing great football. So if they go back to back, they're going to have to earn it this year because I think those two teams are really going to give them a run for that district title. Now, when you look at the other side, and you look at Sinton, I think Sinton's getting better. I've come on this podcast and I said, if you look at Sinton's record, right, it's not very good right now. But we've had Coach Troutman second week, I believe it was, on the Gridiron 64. He talked about his young quarterback that was hurt last year, but he felt like, with all the reps that he gets as the games progress, he felt right before district starts and getting in the district in the playoffs, he felt that his quarterback was going to be better. He got a great running back in Garcia back there. And then they got those receivers. So when you look at Sinton offensively, right, they're really good because they can run the ball. Hanson, I believe, is going to get better. And I think he's going to the thing is you pressure him and you don't get to him. He's got those feet where he can run and he can gain a bunch of yards. So he can hurt you when he scrambles. So if you're a defense, you have to be careful with him. You got to worry about the running back, and then they've got those Jacoby James, Heseltine. They've got some receivers that can catch that ball and move those chains for them. Now, defensively is where they were kind of new, but their defense has played really, really great. They've been playing good. Excuse me, but I think looking at Sinton, they're playing every week. They're playing a pretty tough opponent, right? So even though they're losing, I think they're winning in terms of they're getting better. They're seeing good offenses, right? They're seeing good quarterbacks. They're seeing good offenses. And the thing with Sinton, even though they've lost, they haven't really been blown out. They've been competitive in every game they played. Now they just got a district win over a tough team this last week, right? I think it was, but I think they're getting better. And I think they're going to be more dangerous when they get into the district. Of course, you know, they'll face Ingleside. Orange Grove will be another team that I think you can't just lay down on. I talked a little bit about their offense, but they're going to face a good Orange Grove team. They're going to face a really good Ingleside team. So they got their work cut out for them. So I think when you look at Sinton, I think they're getting better. I think the competition they played, even though their record shows different or says different, that's a better team than what their record shows. And I think you're going to see that in district. And I think you're going to see Sinton when they get in the playoffs because they've got their weapons. It was just about getting them accustomed to the system. There's some new assistant coaches that Trotman brought in, um, but the talent's there. And I felt like once Sinton really gets rolling and they really get a grasp of that offense, they're going to score some points. The defense, we'll see how they hold up in district and how they hold up in the playoffs because they're going to play two really good offenses when they're in district. They're going to play the Orange Grove Bulldogs. They pass the ball a lot. So you're going to see that secondary get tested for Sinton, the safeties and corners when they play Orange Grove. But when they really play Ingleside, that's when you're really going to see the test, I think, because with the quarterback that Ingleside has and those receivers, they got some really explosive receivers. So it's going to be, again, much must watch football when those teams come on. But that is why I think Troutman is playing these offenses and having his defense take a look and take a look at where they need to, work on before they get in the district. Because I think Coach Troutman knows what he's facing in district with a good Orange Grove pass team and in Ingleside, who's coming with the pass, and they've got the run game. So again, I think it's going to be really good for both of these teams. But I expect to see Lavernia and Sinton in the playoffs. Sinton does defeat Lavernia. I'm sorry, it was this a game where they beat them 47-42. So this is the win that I was talking about, not last week. This is the win that I was talking about that was impressive to me, right? When they take the win 47-42, right? So they scored 47 points against a pretty good Lavernia team, right? And that's what I'm talking about. You're seeing Sinton progressively get better every week. They're better than what their record shows. And now you're starting to see they're putting it together. They have those weapons. And so it's going to be really good. A good game. I thought it was going to be a good game between Sinton and Lavernia. I'm not sure if I took Sinton this one. I think I took Lavernia. I'm not sure. But again, Sinton gets that win 47-42. I knew it was going to be close, but this is a great win for Coach Troutman and his Pirates getting right into district. This is the last non-district game. Now they'll go into district, I think here, and not in about not this upcoming week, but the next one I think is when they start their first district game. So a great win. Kids are feeling good about themselves as they get close to starting district. So it's going to be good, and we'll continue to talk about Sinton in that district because I think it's going to be a really good district. We'll see if Sinton can hang on and be back-to-back district champs. Now we'll go to game number 10, and we'll take on the Kingsville Brahmas and the Tolosa Midway Warriors. And of course, my condolences out to the Contreras family and to the Kingsville community. As before this game started, they had one of their coaches who had a medical issue, and they postponed this game until Saturday. But just wanted to send out my condolences to the Kingsville community and to the Contreras family for the loss. Anytime you lose a coach, it hits or anybody, any member of a school. It affects coaches, coworkers. It affects the kids. But they still did play this game. Not that night. They played it the next game. I believe it was on Saturday. And again, both of these teams I think are playing really good. Kingsville's in that district with Calhoun, I think in Alice. But I said it before and I'll say it again. I think this team's got an opportunity to make the playoffs. I really do. I think they've hired the right coach. We were hyped up when they did the hiring here on the Gridiron because we thought that Kingsville has always had talent, and you're seeing them compete now, win or lose, right? They're competing. I think they're going to continue to get better. with the coaching staff that they have there. And that's always good for football, right? When Kingsville is in the playoffs and they're playing good, just makes football more interesting in the coastal Bend, South Texas area, right? Toloso Midway, we've talked about TM as well. Team that's getting better every year, man. I remember a couple years ago when I said to someone, I said, man, that defense is really good. Like you look at Toloso Midway, and this was about 3 or 4 years ago. I said this, their defense is really good. It's the offense that they need to get going. Once that offense gets going, this team's going to be really good. You're starting to see Toloso Midway now become a team that's getting better every year. Made the playoffs last year. The goal, I believe, this year was to make the playoffs again, to be able to compete with the two top teams in their district, which would be Alice and Calhoun, right? But then get in the playoffs like they did last year and now win round one, I think would be the goal for Toloso Midway. We'll see how it happens. But both of these teams on the up in their programs, and that's really good to see here in the Coastal Bend, South Texas um, area. And now we'll go over to our state games. We had 2 state games. Um, I'll go back here. I'm sorry to the Sinton. I did have stats for Sinton. Tristan Hansen for Sinton. He was 14 to 24 for 275 yards, 4 touchdowns. So the kid's playing great. And I told you he was going to get a grasp of that offense. And every week you were going to see him get more comfortable and he was going to get better. Those stats don't lie, right? Sinton as a team, though, the 32 rushes for 253 yards. Derek Garcia, 16 carries, broke the 100 marker. He had 138 yards, 1 touchdown. Sinton had 14 receptions for 275 yards. Jacoby James, 5 receptions for 110 yards and 1 touchdown. So, sorry, I had forgotten about those stats. I just happened to see that I did have stats for Sinton. So, again, when we had brought Coach Troutman, this is exactly what he said. He said, look, we're going to get better. I mean, we know that we've got some work ahead of us. We're not where we want to be, but he felt that every week this team was going to get better. This quarterback was going to get better. He was going to get a grasp of the offense. He was going to get more comfortable. And Coach Troutman felt once he got comfortable, watch out. And these stats right here against a very good Lavernia team. That's the other thing. Lavernia is a very good football team. He scored 47 points against that team. You get the win and you look at those stats. That's probably what you're going to see more of as Sinton gets into the district. So, man, wow. It's going to be good to see Orange Grove, Ingleside, and Sinton all battled out for a district title. So it's going to be great. So I just wanted to go back to those stats. So my apologies for not getting that when I was talking about Sinton. Now we're going to go to the state games real quick. And state game number 1, you had the Brownwood Lions. They're taking on the Waco Connally Cadets in game 1. Brownwood gets the win over Waco Cadets at 31-28, right? So don't know much about either one of those teams, but we do state games all the time. We're trying to get to know a little bit more about these teams, do some research during the week when we have the time. But the Lions get the win over the Cadets, 31-28, very close game. And then the game number 2 state game, you had the Silsbee Tigers taking on West Orange Stark, and Silsbee gets the win there, 20-6 over West Orange Stark. So, we talk about those teams because what's going to end up happening is we're going to talk about these teams come playoffs, because the Gridiron 64 continues after the regular season. We get into the playoffs. We don't end it. Excuse me, until the teams get crowned champions at AT&T in Dallas. So a lot of football left, a lot of gridiron left here, the podcast to talk about. We're excited. And like I said, we're going to make some changes. We do want to go live. We feel it's better if we go live. People can catch it as we're talking about the games. But, we just got to figure out what format is going to work best for us. Because like I said, we can't get everybody together all the time because people work late. Some people have to work. Some people are off. So it would kind of be like some days it might be 2 of us. Sometimes it might be 3 of us. Sometimes it might be 1 of us. And I don't really want to do a lot of that. I think we get more chemistry. We get going more when all 3 of us are involved. So not sure how it's going to work. I've thrown out some ideas out there, but we're still working to see how all that's going to work. For next week, we'll be right back again, pre-recording. But after that, I'm hoping we can get to the live stream. I think you guys would like it to follow the gridiron, and I know I would like it as well. I think TJ and Tony would like it as well. It's just a matter of how it can work for all of us. So we do got some options out there. We just got to make sure which one's the best for us moving forward and what the guys feel comfortable with and what I feel comfortable with. So But some of that stuff, and then of course we're looking at our game of the week. We're looking how we can, bring in coaches on what day that works for the coaches, that works for us to be able to do interviews, and then bring in players from our area. We want to do that. It hasn't worked out so far for us because, like I said, kids. We got to get their schedule down right, and then we've got to be able to be out of work to be able to do that. So we're still working on that. I thought we would have that done by now, but still a couple more things we got to work on. But there are things that we are trying to bring and add to the Gridiron 64. So hang in there. Just want to make sure that once we do it consistently. We don't do it 1 week and then we don't do it for 3 weeks. Everything that we do and we add, we want to make sure that it's something that's going to work long term for us and for you guys to like it, not do it 1 week and then it's not going to work for 2, 3 weeks and then we come back on the fourth week. That doesn't work for us here on the Gridiron. So hang in there. We're trying to work through all of this, what's going to work for us and what's going to work for them to make sure we bring all that to you, because you love football and we love talking about football. We definitely love talking about our teams in the Coastal Bend area, all 47 teams that we have, and then definitely talking about our players. And when they do good, we want to be able to bring it out and let everybody know what they're doing and their stats. So detailed consistency is what we're trying to get. So hopefully we'll get that here soon. But that'll conclude podcast part one, number 61. I believe I told you is what it was. This was the recap from week 5, and TJ, Riddell, and Tony. I think they've probably already done it, but we're going to do part 2, and that was the preview for week 6. So I'll upload this to the Gridiron 64 YouTube channel, and then it'll be shared on to the Gridiron 64 Sports Network Facebook and Twitter page. You can also catch it on the Anchor and Spotify. You can go GT Sports on Anchor and Spotify. So if you go to Spotify or Anchor to hear this on the audio, hit GT Sports and you'll see it, and then you can catch the audio version there as well. So thank you very much. We'll be back next week. We'll recap week 6 and we'll preview week 7. Till then, man, have a great evening and we'll talk to you soon.